So this is, okay, pop-ups. Okay, thanks for coming to the pre-race strategy call for Chamonix UTMB with Andy Glaze. We have a surprise guest here, Jon Levitt from For the Long Run podcast. He's going to be kind of our expert interviewer and guide Andy in questions and kind of like extracting all the information we need for your UTMB week and for the race. And then we have Isabel. She's from Rabbit, so she'll also be in Chamonix. So if either of you guys are coming to the Clubhouse, you'll see her. And then I have Hillary from Halo, the hotel booking platform, and Hillary can talk a little bit about what Halo is really quick if you'd like to.
Well, yeah, we can I'll kick it over to Isabel really quickly, but we're kind of doing all of this on behalf of Rabbit and the Clubhouse that they're putting on during UTMB week. So we do these calls. Andy has joined us before on a Bandera call. And it's just a way for people that don't have access to a coach to kind of hear from somebody that's kind of done, walked the path before, to just kind of hear like a little bit more around strategy and everything. And then also to be able to meet some fellow kind of hotel guests before you check in. So thank you guys for joining. Thank you, Andy and Jon, for doing this. And Isabel, I'll kick it over to you.
Yeah, of course. I'm going to drop a link that is our Rabbit Clubhouse landing page. But the idea is we partner with Halo to make a hotel experience for the people who are either running or supporting the runners across 3 different locations. So the one here is UTMB, which is coming up super soon. That will be in Chamonix, as well as the New York City Marathon and the Chicago Marathon. So it's not only a place to stay, but we're selling gear. We're also doing a lot of different community activations so runners can kind of mingle and get to know the community. And it's just a good place to hang out during race week.
Awesome. Thanks, Isabel. Yeah, we'll keep the call to, 1 hour total. We'll stop close to 7. But I think that the way the convo will go, I think if anyone wants to ask a question, including Isabel, who'll be going to Chamonix for her first time, just raise your hand. It's at the top there. There's a little button, or you can click the chat button and type it in if you don't want to chime in person or whatever. But either way, it's fine. It's a pretty casual conversation. And you should also check out Jon's podcast sometime for the long run. It's pretty awesome. He has a lot of interesting guests. I don't know if Andy's been on it yet, but
not yet.
Just a little teaser here. All right, Jon, I'll let you kick it off.
Maggie and everyone else, thanks so much for letting me steer this very selfish conversation, because I've never been to Chamonix and I have tons of questions. So this will really just be framed around how can Andy help Jon have the best time in Chamonix as possible? So I host a podcast for the long run, all about exploring the why. It's all about sustainable excellence. How do people do awesome things? And so I love following Andy because he does a lot of really awesome and excellent things. And his brain and mind is just so powerful in getting through the hard stuff. And I think there's so much value in that. We're not going to be digging into, we're unfortunately not going to be digging into that aspect of Andy today, but rather more on the logistical side of race week and race weekend. And we'll kind of frame it around the actual arc of going to the race and doing the race and all of the things that happen during race week. So, Andy, let's kick it off with the fact that most people have probably booked a trip that doesn't fly into Chamonix unless they've hired their own airplane to to do it. But
I think it'd be a helicopter.
Or a helicopter, yep. If we're really looking to go carbon not neutral on the trip, what should people know before they arrive in Chamonix? What should they know about getting to Geneva or wherever else they may be entering the valley?
So I've done it 2 ways. One time I flew to Paris, and because I wanted to see Paris, and then I took a train all the way down to the valley, and then there's a little teeny train that goes up through the Chamonix Valley. I can't think of all the stops. Obviously if you use Google, you could probably figure it out. But I did that one time, and then all the other times I've done the race, I've just flown into Geneva. So, both options would like work. Like if you wanted to have like a Paris vacation and do it that way, it's pretty easy to take a train from Paris to, that area and then get on the little trolley or whatever it is that goes up the valley. The other way is to fly into Geneva, which is a lot easier. It's like maybe an hour from Chamonix. There's a bunch of vans that can pick you up. And I think there's a couple companies that actually work with UTMB to facilitate that. But in general, like if you think about the Chamonix Valley, you're either skiing there or you're mountaineering or you're summering there. So there's a pretty robust bunch of companies that can get you from the airport to your hotel, and then I'll pick you up and take you back to the airport. And normally you're just on like in a van with like maybe 8 or 10 other people that happen to also land around the same time. But you basically you come out, get your bags, and right in that same area is all these little stands that are set up, and they're just whatever company you chose will be represented there. And you just go up there and you say, hey, I booked with you guys, and then they'll figure out how to get you to your hotel. I prefer to stay in the actual city center. It's cheaper if you stay other places. So if you're on a budget, there's a bunch of little cities that kind of follow that valley south that you can stay in cheaper than staying right in Chamonix. But for accessibility and experience, I think if you can stay like right in the city, it is a little bit nicer experience. So
I think most of these people will be staying at the Rabbit Clubhouse, so they'll be right in Chamonix,
right,
with a wonderful experience.
Yeah, I think, and that's the best for 2 reasons. One, I mean, the restaurants, the shops, the people are all in Chamonix, which is what you really want to experience. There's a ton of group runs and just activities going on that whole week that are really fun to participate in. And then if you happen to bring somebody to crew you, you're closer to the buses, which makes life a lot easier for them because, then they can go back to the hotel, chill while you're running, and then go get the bus. And they're not having to take a train down to, wherever they are, a couple cities away.
Andy, I'm again curious personally, what is the experience of going between multiple countries in Europe? You land in Switzerland and you traverse to France. What's that like?
I mean, people think because we're so obsessed with borders in America that it's similar in Europe, but it's very porous there. Once you fly into the EU, you can just travel through all these countries with no issues or no checkpoints or anything like that. So there's definitely some architecture differences in between the like countries, but like traveling from Switzerland into Chamonix, you basically go through a tunnel and then you're in France, and there's no fanfare or anything. You're just in France. And same when you're running, it's like you don't necessarily know, hey, and now I'm in Italy or now I'm in Switzerland, unless you have researched it on a map. There's maybe a flag or something, but nothing like significant. You just cross over into the other country and keep running. And yeah, it's very, very easy. There's no stress or anything like that when it comes to travel.
Speaking of travel, our girl Taylor Swift says jet lag is a choice. How do you deal with jet lag, and how do you deal with you're going to Germany this weekend, you're coming back, you're going to Leadville, then you're going to UTMB. How do you do that? What are your tips for navigating all these time zones?
I don't think I'm going to do it well. I think it's going to be, a huge issue. I normally do UTMB. I get in on Thursday and the race is on Friday, and I just ignore jet lag because the race starts at like 5 or 6 p.m., which is 9 a.m. in California time. So for me, I kind of use it in my advantage that I just stay on California time so that when the race starts, that first night is just my daytime. And so
Yep.
there's no, like, I don't ever adjust because I just stay on California time. But night 2 in UTMB, which unless you're like a professional and like you're super fast, which I am not, you're going to hit night 2. Night 2 is a little rough. Night 2, you might have to indulge in a little bit of caffeine and, you know, and you're going to be suffering a bit. There might be some hallucinations and some, fun times out in the forest.
I did a podcast with a guy who worked with the special forces in understanding jet lag and preparedness and all sorts of things. And I put together a short little blog, and there's a 7-piece takeaway from it. And so I'll just kind of speed through it, and maybe we can link to it. His recommendations: arrive 1 or 2 days earlier than you were planning to, cap sleep at about 4.5 hours on most long flights, and closer to 3 from the West Coast to Asia. The exception is a true overnight flight to Europe, where you should get as much sleep as you can if you're arriving in the morning. So like if you're arriving between 8 to 11 a.m., try and sleep as much as you possibly can on the flight, even if it leaves at 7 p.m. But if you're showing up at 2 p.m. European time, don't go more than 4.5 hours, because you don't want to arrive and feel the need to stay awake for the next 18 hours. On long overnight flights, book the one that leaves later and arrives later. Fly a Boeing 787 or Airbus 350 if you have the choice. When you're booking flights, you can actually dial into this and see the answer. There is cabin pressure and the altitude that's simulated in that. It's 8,000 feet versus 6,000 feet. Eat smaller, high protein, lower carb meals, and hydrate with electrolytes rather than plain water. Skip alcohol until you've had 1 full night of sleep, and wear compression socks. Bring earplugs and move around the cabin. Just some other tips on that. Okay, so you've arrived in Geneva or Paris, and you're making your way to Chamonix. What are people going to be most surprised by upon their first time arriving in that area?
I mean, it can be really, really beautiful, and then the weather can be really, really terrible. People look at the Alps and they go, oh, this race only goes to like 9,000 feet, so that shouldn't be that big a deal. But the Alps have their own weather, and it can change quite dramatically. You can literally be in sunshine and like it can be pouring rain on you like a few minutes later. So I would say pretty unpredictable weather. It's a small town. I mean, it's not like this giant city, and it's very packed during UTMB week. So there's just going to be a ton of people. Obviously, restaurants get busy, but they have a lot of restaurants. It manages it okay, but like you can tell it stresses the city out a little bit because it's really, really packed for UTMB. It's a walkable city. You're going to be walking most of the time. Once you get to your hotel, there's, cars will be driving around, but very, very limited, mostly just like delivery vehicles, and everywhere is you're just walking everywhere. So really beautiful. If the weather's nice, you're going to have like snow-capped peaks surrounding you. Tons and tons of flowers are going to be blooming around that time. So they have all these baskets of like beautiful flowers. You have a river running through the middle of the city. That's it's pretty nice. And yeah, just you're gonna see a ton of people from all over the world, and they're all runners. So it's pretty cool.
What's the restaurant scene like? And do people have any chance of booking restaurants by just walking in and saying, I have 6 people I'm with, I'd like to sit down now, please?
Yeah, I mean, I've never done like any sort of booking ahead of time. There's a ton of restaurants. They're like yeah.
More than Palisades?
Yeah, definitely more than
Okay,
Palisades. Yeah, I mean, lots of like those open sort of restaurants with like tons of outdoor seating. You'll see like a lot of that. I mean, if the weather's nice, it's summertime, a lot of outdoor seating. I'm vegan, so I have a more limited approach to what I can eat there, but obviously a lot of pastas, a lot of pizzas, stuff like that. There's some, really good Indian food there. What else? I mean, you can find pretty much everything, sushi, it's all there. But yeah, I've never booked ahead of time, but obviously during dinner times and rushes, it's gonna get busy. So, um, but yeah, and it's Europe. So if you're coming from America and you're used to American service, it's Europe, so it's a bit slower. Don't expect to like go in, eat, and be out in like 45 minutes. It's a dining experience. So
Can you talk
there's
more about that? Because I went to Scotland recently, or a couple of years ago, and I was quite surprised with the prices and the tipping and the like lack of service. Yeah, I suppose is a way to put it.
yeah,
What should people expect?
I would just say like, when you're ready to leave, you might have to go up and, tell your
Try and
waiter or
pay.
whatever. Yeah. Like, hey, I'm ready to pay. Otherwise, they'll just kind of leave you there, even though like there's no more food, they've taken everything. Because I think in general, they're used to just people talking and hanging out. So it's more of a dining experience. Tipping is not really a thing out there. You can attempt to tip, and some places will have it set up, but in general tipping's not necessarily a thing. There is a small grocery store, a couple of them in the city center, that you can go get waters and some like foods. And I normally go there and I get like a bunch of water and sparkling water and stuff like that just to have in my hotel. They're very small, not like, almost like you would think of like a bodega in New York City. um, like maybe on that level. It's definitely not like going to an American grocery store, but like if you want fresh fruits and vegetables, they have that. And then obviously they'll have meats and cheeses and waters and cereals and stuff like that. So, um,
Um, should people think about groceries? How should they think about what's in the Rabbit Clubhouse? Maybe Isabel or Hillary could help with that one also. Are there supermarkets that people are using there? What about I know you're getting there on Thursday and you race Friday. What if you're there on Tuesday or Monday? Like, how should people be thinking about, eating and all that kind of stuff?
yeah, I mean there are small grocery stores, not like big ones, that they can go to. I recommend going and just getting some like basic snacks and whatnot. But they're probably going to be eating out most of the food, unless there's like somewhere that they can cook or do something like that. I'll have a kitchen in my place, so it's possible. But I also I've gone so many times. I'm friends with all the restaurant owners that I go to, so I like to go and hang out with them and eat their food. So I'm looking forward to seeing all my French restaurant owner friends when I'm there.
Nice. Let's talk about the race itself. UTMB has quite an extravagant required gear list. Talk to us about that. Talk to us about how people should think about apparel and sun exposure and being cold at night and all these types of things.
Yeah, I mean, so the mandatory gear list, that was definitely challenging for me when I first like started doing the race, because there's a lot of like European specificities to fabric that we're not really used to in America. Um, you will probably, I mean, you have the chance to have to wear every single piece of gear. This is the only race that I've ever done where I have put every single mandatory piece of gear on at times, multiple times throughout the race. So it's definitely not like a fake thing. Last year, it rained the whole first 40 miles. And then anytime you got above maybe 7,000 feet, it was snowing very, very hard. So, and it got so cold. In fact, that's probably the coldest I've ever been in any race. And I had double gloves on, my parka on, because it was a cold weather year. So they made you bring extra gear. You had to wear your cold weather kit. So I had my parka, my rain jacket, my beanie, everything, my pants, and I was still freezing. Luckily, after 40 miles, the rain stopped, and then we had sunshine the whole rest of the race. So that's a thing. I've also run that race where I never got out of a t-shirt. I never even put gloves on even at nighttime. So it's like I said earlier, like the weather is unpredictable out there. It can be sunny and then it can pour rain. It can be sunny and then it can snow. The Alps create their own weather patterns, and you're not always going to know what you're going to expect. So, but the list is, it's it's long, and they do go through it when you do check-in. It's not as extensive as it was in previous years. They used to like go through every piece of gear. And in the last couple of years, ever since they got bought out by Ironman, I haven't seen it be as crazy. Um, but you will also have mandatory gear checks. I think it's twice in the race. I think at 50K, and I can't remember if there's another one somewhere else, but I definitely remember at 50K, they normally check to make sure you have like your phone and like your rain jacket or something like that. There's like as you go into the aid station, there's people checking your gear. So you got to have it all on you.
What do you
I
wish?
remember Amanda Basham one year ran, she's in elite for ultra running, but she broke a pole, and I think if you start with poles, you need to carry them the whole time. So she had to carry this broken pole with her,
Yeah.
like the entire race. So I remember that was like pretty strict.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the rules for sure. If you start with poles, you have to end with poles. That would be rough. I would hope that like I always bring spare poles because that race without poles would be extremely challenging, especially the last 35 miles. You'll be in trouble. So yeah, definitely bring poles.
What do you wish you knew now that you knew the first time you ran UTMB?
I probably just I mean it can be very, very muddy too. The first year I did it, I was a lot younger and I was in like really great shape, and I was like winning ultras and sub 24ing all these crazy mountain races in America. And I went out there and just got my butt absolutely kicked. Like I mean it rained on me the whole time, 30 something hours of rain. There was so much mud, and you were going up and down very, very steep terrain. And when you have to do that in mud, it's extremely challenging. So, if it's raining and stuff like that, I would definitely bring more of an aggressive sole on my shoe. There's obviously running sections where you don't need that, but yeah, if you're coming down in the mud, it's you're going to be slipping and sliding. So, think about that appropriately. Also, like the Europeans they're not real big on switchbacks, and the climbs are very, very long. So, learn what false summit means, because you're going to see so many false summits. It's going to be a little sad at times, because you see all these headlights going up the mountain and you're like, oh, there's the top, it's right there, and you get there and then you just see another line of headlights going up to some other peak, and you get up there and then it's like another line of lights going up, and it sometimes seems like that goes on forever, because it does. But now that I've done it so many times, like I know when the mountain ends, so psychologically I can just be like, oh, we got, it's just right up there. So just save your quads too. Like in the beginning on the downhills, you're going to feel great. You're going to want to run them really hard. You will need those quads at the last 25 miles a lot. There's several sections at the end that you descend some miles that are like 12 to 1400 feet of vert descending per mile. And it is not a nice descent. It's very technical and rocky. So you're going to be braking with your quads and your knees. And if you blow them out at mile 30 as you're bombing down that valley, it's going to hurt you later.
That sounds good. So people still have a chance to do their last repeated bout effect of downhill support for training purposes. Talk talk to me more about the logistics of the loop and the aid stations and spectators and crew and all of that stuff. Like it seems very complicated.
It is a bit complicated. Obviously, it'd be awesome if my wife was on because she's crewed me 6 times. I mean, the best way I can put it is it's just a shit show. It's very hard to get on the buses. There's long lines. Go to the buses early if you're on the crew. You're going to get there early, and then they're not going to let you into the tents until your runner is very close to the aid station. They're kind of like tracking us through predicted times. Um, and it gets a little frustrating because a lot of times you'll get to the aid station and your crew won't be in yet. So you kind of have to look for you kind of have to look for them. Sometimes I'll see if I have cell service and I will call Lauren and let her know that I'm there. The one weird thing about the Alps, which we don't have in our mountains, is you will have cell service most of the time you're out there. Just because it's Europe. So you might be able to call your whoever it is that's crewing you and let them know that you're there. Otherwise, it's just very chaotic. If you watch some of my videos from the race, there's just hundreds of people shoved into a very small tent, and everyone's trying to, do the aid station stuff, get their nutrition or whatnot. And it gets a bit chaotic, especially in the beginning. It mellows out as the race goes on. I think the first time I see Lauren normally is mile 20. You can get to an earlier aid station, but I wouldn't recommend it. I would just go straight to mile 20, which I'm not going to remember what that city is called, but I think it starts with an H, but I could be wrong. Anyways, mile 20 or 21 or 22, somewhere around there. And then I don't think you see your crew again until mile 50, which is when you get into Italy. Again, I'm horrible with pronunciations, but I'm sure you can figure out where the mile 58 station is. That one is where you have a drop bag. That's your only drop bag in the race, unless they might have changed it this year. I of course have not read the rules, but because they canceled some of the crew spots at the end of the race this year. So again, I don't know exactly what it is, but I know that at the end you don't have as many crew in Switzerland. So mile 50 is a huge aid station, lots of room for activities. And when you come into it, you have the crewed side to the left and the uncrewed side to the right. So if you have a crew, go to the left, and if you don't, you go to the right. Lots of tables and benches and stuff to sit down and regroup. I think the first 40 miles you climb 20,000 feet of vert. So when you come into this aid station, you're a little bit broken as a human. You've survived the first night. It's daytime now, and you're like, I'm halfway done. But this race is more like 109 miles, so you're not really halfway done. You're like, anyways. So, but that's a good aid station just to kind of regroup. They normally have pasta there that's delicious with red sauce. That's what I always think of, the food. And like I said, you can have a drop bag if you don't have crew there. And then the next time you see your crew, I think, is 75-ish, which is in Switzerland. That's another really big aid station. Tends to be a bit chaotic, though. What Lauren does sometimes, and what my friends do, is they get there early, and sometimes they have sleeping cots for crew people that you can go sleep on the cot. So she'll go there, and they'll give her a blanket, and she just sleeps on the cot. Which is, a possibility if you get there an hour or two early. At the Switzerland aid stations, they tend to have places that sell French fries nearby, which is pretty amazing. You have to pay extra for it, but Lauren will get me a couple trays of French fries, which chef's kiss, is quite nice at mile 75 and 85. And I think, so normally you have 3 aid stations in Switzerland, and I think this year you only have 2. You guys will have to double check me on that. But so to get to Italy, it's a very, very long bus ride. And then so you have to go all the way to Italy and then all the way back. It's several hours to Italy and then several hours back. When you go to Switzerland, you basically go to Switzerland, you go get off on one aid station, and then you get on another bus and it just takes you to the next aid station. So it's quite quick. You don't have to go all the way back to Chamonix. You're on like the Swiss bus loop or whatever. And then once you're at the last Swiss aid station, it'll take you back to Chamonix. Any other, I mean, questions on that? It's again, I've never crewed it. I've only talked to Lauren about it. I think she wrote a thing on it, and I don't even know where I could find it. I don't know if it's on my Substack or if it's on my blog spot, but she definitely wrote a crewing like brief once. But yeah, it's not easy. It's a cluster, and just mentally prepare for it to be like a cluster.
Yeah, I'll jump in here quickly because I have crewed a few friends. I would just say read the manuals and make sure, like, there's one of the stops in Switzerland, we thought we could drive all the way there, and then we realized we had to park and then get on a bus and then take the bus up, and we had, obviously kind of fuel and everything like that. So just be prepared, do your due diligence on every stop, and add plenty of extra time.
Yeah, exactly. I pack a backpack, and Lauren just brings the backpack and it has everything I need in it. And so that's all she has to do is sort of, bring the backpack.
I dropped a TikTok reel that she made from crewing in one of the aid stations in there. It's pretty crowded, like you were talking about.
Yeah,
I'll keep looking for the write-up.
You got to kind of fight for your spot and everything. It gets pretty nuts, especially that first aid station at mile 20.
What should people know about the aid station volunteers in Europe versus their experience in the US? What's different? How do people communicate with them?
They're very nice, but they don't all speak English. Limited, like you're not going to really communicate with them a whole lot. Everything's kind of laid out. The biggest communication you'll have with them is what you want to drink, like because they have everything out in front. They use what's the thing where you put the gas into the water and the bottle's already I can't think. SodaStream. So they switched to SodaStream a couple years ago to like, help with environmental impact. And so like it's Coke flavored, stuff like that. It's you just kind of point, hey, I want cola, or like one thing about UTMB is they have sparkling water and still water. So I normally say gas or no gas. And that's about as easy as you can get it. Like, but yeah, a lot of times they don't speak English, but if you can always just point and they'll be very, very helpful. But they're all nice. It's just, you have to imagine it's just chaos because you have thousands of people just coming through these things, just grabbing what they can and going. As you get further into, like I said, Italy and Switzerland, the aid stations start to have more robust food options as far as like pastas, and like I know there's like a bunch of delicious pastries in Switzerland that I can't eat, but they look incredible. And things like that you'll be able to get more of like solid food options, and not just they have meat, cheese, and bread are going to be like your staples at most of the aid stations. And then I assume knock is still going to be sponsoring, and so you'll have knock options, or however you say it. I don't know how you say it. NAAK, I believe. Is that knock or knack or whatever? They'll have bars, and they'll have their liquids and stuff. At some of the aid stations, sometimes they have their hot drink, which is interesting. It's like soup, but it's got like carbs in it, right? Like hot tailwind, but like more savory and delicious. So
interesting. Okay, so as people are continuing on, you're going through, you have a second sunrise. Is that right?
Well, if you're slow enough, you will, you know.
What's that? What's that like? Talk us through the like how to navigate something like that.
I always find sunrises to be very invigorating in races. So you'll be excited when the sun comes up for the second time because depending on how like slow you go, and I'm not saying that judgmentally because I'm slow too, but like in a sense, like that second night is going to be really, really hard. It's the Swiss section has some really big climbs. And when you leave the last aid station before you do the big climb to there's one last little teeny aid station, but it's more of like just a checkpoint before you drop down into Chamonix. When you leave the last big aid station in Switzerland, you have a very technical, horrible section. It's my least favorite part of the whole race, and you get it at like mile 101. And you basically crawl up this pile of rocks, and then you crawl down the pile of rocks. And there's definitely points where you're going to have to use your hands. It's almost like a class 3 scramble down into this little valley. And you're doing this all in the dark. So when the sun comes up and you're like climbing out of that, you're like, oh my God, thank God this sun is coming up right now. It feels pretty good. So, I do see it. There's a lot of people that sleep in this race. I see you will see a lot of people just taking trail naps. You'll see people at the aid stations on the benches sleeping. You have, what do you have, like 40 hours or something like that? Something like that. You have a significant amount of time, so you definitely have time to take naps if you get super sleepy and you just feel like you can't push through it. 10-minute nap here or there will definitely reinvigorate you. And again, it's going to depend on the weather, right? Because if it's pouring rain, you'll probably have to wait till the aid stations, where the year I did it, when it was like, I think it was like 85, which is super hot for Europe. People were sleeping everywhere because they just couldn't deal with the heat.
What about the drop bags versus crewed aid stations? What's the process of filling the drop bags, and how many do you have access to, or what do you recommend there?
I don't know if they changed it for this year because they took out the crewed aid station. I didn't read because I'm being crewed, so I didn't really care. They give you a drop bag when you check in, and you have to drop it off the afternoon before the race. So like right before the race starts, you have to like take it somewhere and drop it off. And it's a pretty good size bag. And as you come into the aid station, they're all hung, like 2,000 drop bags are hung on these like metal hooks, and you just yell out your number and somebody will find your drop bag and give it to you before you enter the aid station. But you can fit a significant, like you could definitely fit an extra pair of shoes in there, or like, whatever you would want. For mile 50. So
there's just the one location for it?
Unless they bumped it up and are having one in Switzerland now, which I don't know. But yeah, I think 2 years ago there was a landslide that made it really hard to get to Italy. Like I think it was like I want to say like a 9-hour or 10-hour drive. And so I just told Lauren, like, don't worry, I'll be fine. Like, and I just used a drop bag instead of having her meet me there. In fact, I'll probably do the same thing this year because it's like such a nightmare to get to Italy. I normally just like give her the time off, like, you don't need to come to Italy. And I just use a drop bag. So it's like anything, you just put whatever you need in there. I normally just put a bunch of food in there, maybe a little lube and an extra pair of socks, and, just go from there.
Cool. Do we have any questions from the audience? This has been super helpful, Andy.
Good. I mean, yeah, it's my favorite race. I absolutely love the race. Obviously, going back from my 7th year, which every year I finish it, and I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to do that one again, and then I always end up going back. So it's just, yeah, it's so beautiful. The event is so vibrant, and like the people are great. You'll meet so many fun people out on the trail from all over the world, and it's just fun to talk to people. So good.
Does anyone from Rabbit or Halo have questions that they want to lob over there?
I actually do have a question for folks who are running their first international ultra. Is there anything different other than the language barrier and getting there?
I mean, just the whole, it's a big race. So we're not used to races this big in America. And so just the coordination and like getting your bib and all that stuff is just going to take more time. I know they give you like a slot to go through, but it's a longer process to do everything. And then like, the aid stations are, they're different. Like the foods they're going to have in there are going to be, very different than what we're used to in aid stations. There's not going to be like bowls of M&Ms and stuff like that. It's like I said, it's meat, cheese, and bread primarily, which I like literally just like, it's and the Europeans love that stuff. So, kind of just lean in and embrace it. Also, like, when we're used to having pacers, and this race you have no pacers. So that's a bit challenging too for a lot of Americans, because we're used to, in those dark moments, we're used to being able to lean on a friend to kind of get us through it. And you can't necessarily do that, but you'll meet people out on the trail, and you can kind of like stick with them even if they don't speak your language. You guys will get into like sort of like a rhythm together, and you'll like climb together, you descend together. You'll all like, towards the end, the same 15 people I will see at every aid station, and we'll all kind of leave together, and we all kind of go at different paces, but we all end up at the aid station again. And it gets like kind of a good feeling, but it is challenging when you're out there on like at second night and you're all by yourself, and you don't have anybody to help you out.
Yeah, I guess
have a
along the
question.
line. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Isabel. Go ahead.
Okay, sure. Thanks, Maggie. I guess along that line of just like the mental block, what's like your go-to, I guess, strategy that you think keeps you going every single time, or do you vary it up?
I mean, I have the race like memorized in my brain now, so it's like it's my mental strategy is a bit different than like somebody doing it for the first time. I would just say, really just enjoy the experience, because it's very different from anything we have in America. And even in the darkness, it's just a different feel. Like maybe you've seen videos, you'll be in the darkness climbing some big mountain, and there'll just be like a bunch of cattle, just like cowbells going, and like it's very it's very different. And so I would just kind of like lean into the fact that you're somewhere in Europe traveling through the Alps, and just how magical that is, and how lucky you are to be able to experience it all. Even at your lowest moments, you're in the Alps, which is incredible. You're not at work. You're not, doing something that you don't want to be doing. And it might hurt, and it might be painful, and you might be tired and sleepy, but at the end of the day, you're still in the Alps. So like, just be really happy about that.
That's a good point. Thanks. I'll pass it off to Maggie.
Thanks. And if anyone else has a question, you can chime in. I just was thinking about how UTB is so different from all the other races. Is like there's a 1-day expo, you just go there, do your thing, and you leave. But here there's so many races going on, from like starting Monday when TDS starts. PTL probably starts even before that, I don't remember. But and the expo is like 5 days long, and you do walk everywhere. I think I walked like 8 miles a day when I was there, and I was just working. But how do you approach that as like a runner? And do you kind of like, well, Andy, you might not be the best person for this question, because you just like run 100 miles a week anyway, and UTMB wouldn't be really like your you're still going to run every day, but you can ruin your legs by walking around and getting to see everything. How do you like navigate that?
Nah, that's just active recovery or active getting ready. That's just a
Okay.
taper. You'll be all right. I mean, and that is a good point though. It's really exciting throughout the week because all these people start finishing. And so like the finish line is always packed with people because even though UTMB doesn't start till Friday, you have all the other races that are going to be finishing throughout the week. And so you can go watch, the winners from, OCC or CCC coming in. And then, like you said, the really long distance stuff, you'll see like teammates coming in and they kind of come right through the middle of town at times. So you'll like literally be like eating lunch out on a patio and you'll see some very worn looking person coming down that hasn't
That was
showered
us. We
yeah.
were having pizza and we saw you and we yelled. I don't even know. You were just like, hey, you had no
Yeah.
idea who we were. But
Right.
we're like, that's Andy.
Yeah. So I mean it's and it's like that all week. So that is kind of cool as well. The vibes are high the whole week. The finish line is vibrant the whole week. And even when you're doing UTMB, you'll be out there and you'll run into other racers from other races that are going in the opposite direction of you with huge backpacks on because they've been out there for multiple days and they have helmets on and all this stuff. But a lot of different races going on at the same time.
Oh, thanks, Andy. Does anyone else have questions? Because otherwise we can start to wrap it up. Yeah.
I have a question. Well, Andy, I know you've done a lot of races in the heat, and I don't think it's going to be, hopefully, not hot over there. But how do you combat like some of the high temperatures? I know you've done a lot of Arizona races, a lot of races where there's a lot of heat. So what are your kind of go-tos? I know I'm doing, Javelina for the first time, the big one, and just wanted to know what your strategies are as far as, the heat exhaustion and combating that.
Sure. So there's two ways to look at it. One is if you have ice access and one if you don't have ice access. So for Javelina, you're going to have ice access, which is amazing. Definitely ice bandanas are going to like save your life. I'm also like a big fan of like the heat shirts or not the heat shirts. What are they called? Rabbit, you have an amazing one you just came out with. What's it called? The sun shirts.
The sun
Yeah.
runners, yeah.
Yeah, so basically it's a very thin material shirt that's long sleeve and it has a hood. And you think to yourself, man, this doesn't seem like I would want to wear this in the heat, but it's actually like really, really great for multiple reasons. One, your skin doesn't burn. And two, like when you get it wet, it's very cooling. So I recommend a sun shirt, ice bandana. At UTMB, you have access to a lot of water because it's a very popular hiking trail and there's spring water everywhere along the course. So there's just these like spigots all over the place where you can just get water and you can just like soak your arms, soak your body with water to cool yourself down. If that's like I just did Crazy Mountain and we didn't have ice at Crazy Mountain or not very much ice. But there was lots of river crossings. So I would just like lay down in the river or like splash a bunch of water up on me on the river. Water is your best friend when it comes to cooling. I mean, if you think about what sweat is it's essentially your body is producing water to try to cool yourself down. So if you can just like add a bunch of extra water, it's probably your best bet. At Javelina, you have an aid station every 5 miles. So an ice bandana is probably sufficient because it'll normally melt after about 5 miles. So just every 5 miles, you just get more ice and it'll keep you cool. But sun shirts are, I think, really the way to go, or any sort of like long sleeve something to keep as much sun off you as possible.
What about other gear or like things that are useful for UTMB that most people wouldn't think to do?
I mean, definitely. I mean, just definitely poles. I mean, they require everything else. You might want to like a good blister kit or something like that with like, if you need to pop some blisters or, retape some areas, have a little like KT tape, or they require you to have like big long sections of tape in case you like hurt something, but like smaller pieces for like hot spots on your feet. I've definitely had to address some blister issues out there just because the rocks are so uneven and your feet are doing this all the time that you can get some weird hot spots that you're not used to having. And then I'm trying to think, like, maybe, eye drops if it gets like, you're in the mountains, dry air. Sometimes that can be helpful to have if your eyes get like really dry, and definitely lip protection. Anytime you're in the mountains, your lips can get quite burned and quite wind burned as well. So, but everything else, I mean, they make you carry pretty much everything else you need. It's like, yeah.
I would throw in one quick one on the poles. Investing in the Lecky poles versus some of the other ones, I finally bit the bullet and did it.
Yeah.
It makes it over long distances. It does make a big difference. And if you're not used to them from, in America and you're going over there for the first time, it's so steep, and it really does. Just having the hand things attached, I found really made a pretty big difference. So
Yeah.
Andy, what about traveling with the poles? What are your tips for that?
I always put them in my checked bag. I think that legally you can't bring them on your carry-ons. So I always put them in my checked bag. I don't know if they'd really bust you for it, but
it depends on the airport, I think, is what they're technically not allowed, but some like Durango, it's tiny and it's outdoorsy. They'll let you through, but that might not be the case when you get to like another Europe of
I asked somebody at Lecky about this, and he was like, just put like caps on the bottom of the sharp part and say that it's for mobility, and they have to let you do it. I was like, oh,
they'll believe you on the way home for sure. They're like, oh, you need help.
Yeah.
But you don't have to say what kind of mobility it's for. It could be for mobility around a 106-mile race.
Yeah, I would also say, like, if you forget anything, or like say they lose your luggage, Chamonix is it has so many shops. Like, I don't care what you need, like you can find it in Chamonix. There's probably 20 different sporting goods stores that are giant, that have everything you would ever need. Unless you're an American and you have wide feet like me, they do not sell wide shoes. But everything else.
What about you always hear these horror stories of people losing their checked bags. What do you put in your carry-on that you should absolutely not put in your checked bag?
I mean, so because
you gamble.
No, I don't gamble. I literally put everything but my poles in my check bag when I go out there. Like, I put my vest, my shoes, everything comes with me in case they lose my bag. And then in my mind, the only thing I would have to buy would be poles, which would not be an issue to find in Chamonix. But yeah, I don't, for all my races, not just this race, I always carry everything in my non-checked bag. Yeah. I've had luggage lost before, and I don't want to have to do that.
Geneva's really good at losing luggage, by the way. I don't know if it's Geneva's fault or like what, but I know a ton of friends and they lost mine last year. So FYI, with all that many flights, sometimes it happens.
It's hard because there's like no real direct flights into Geneva. So you always have to fly into like Zurich or like, Paris or London or wherever. And then it's just a little small commuter flight into Geneva. So I'm sure it's challenging. If it's a direct flight, I don't stress as much, but like, because there's some sort of commuter involved, that's where it can get lost.
Andy, appreciate the all the insights. If nobody else has any other questions, I'll turn it back over to Maggie and the crew.
Yeah, thank you. That was awesome. Yeah, and if anyone wants to email us and you have questions for Andy, I can pass them along and we'll get you the answer. We're gonna record this and I'll send it out to everybody, or save it and I'll upload to YouTube, and I'll drop the links in all the YouTube things for the rabbit gear and things like that. So thank you so much, Andy. we're really excited to hear about your backyard later. So I'm sure you'll post updates during, but it's going to be really exciting. I can't believe you haven't tried that format yet. So I'm excited to see how you like it.
I know, I just love big mountains so much. It's like, hard for me to break away, but certain opportunities you have to take.
You make so many friends in this format just because you're like run together for so long with certain people, and then yeah, it's going to be really fun.
Yeah, it's kind of like the loop courses. Every once in a while I'll do jackpot or something. It's just a loop course, and I get to run with a lot of cool people. So I just mentally am gonna have to tell myself that's what I'm doing.
Nice. I'll have fun. Okay, I'm gonna stop the recording. Thank you.